Welcome to Raising Confident Readers, the Vision Reading Academy podcast, where science meets story and reading takes on a whole new dimension. I'm Crystal, founder of Vision Reading Academy and a research scientist with a passion for decoding how the brain and eyes work together to unlock learning. Around here, we don't do fluff. We dive into real strategies, real results, and the fascinating science behind how kids learn to read, think, and thrive. This isn't vision therapy, and we're not handing out prescriptions, but we are breaking down brain-based tools and research-backed methods that actually help. So whether you're a parent, educator, or just wildly curious about how vision connects to learning, you're in the right place. Let's get nerdy, let's get practical, and most of all, let's get kids thriving. Hello guys, welcome back to another episode with us. We have a fantastic episode for you today. We have one of Coach Leah's students' parents here with us. She actually has two sons in the program with us, and they have had an amazing journey. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Jessie. Jessie, will you talk to us a little bit about your journey? Talk to us about what brought you here, your journey as a homeschooling mom. Jessie is a homeschooling mom. She's fantastic. So just talk to us how you found us, everything else like that.
I have been homeschooling forever. My kids have never been into the public school program, and I'm very adamant that they learn at their own pace. And at some point, you realize that something else is not quite right. Something beyond just someone's attitude or their learning pace. It's something beyond that. And I had a feeling it was something physical. I had my younger son tested. I had him go to an eye doctor, and they tested for things like dyslexia and color blindness and astigmatism and all those things. And all of those things came back perfectly fine. And I was a little bit perplexed about that. And I just thought that there must be something else. And it was about a year later that I learned about an event that we have near where I live called StoryCon. And I was just looking about the event, and I have another child that likes to write stories. And so I was going to take her. And then I saw that somewhere on one of the flyers, it said there were free reading assessments done. And I didn't know what that meant or who was doing it. It probably said the name of your company on it, but I was like, oh, cool. And so that was why I was going to go, because I was like, maybe they know something. And I actually, when I got to the event, I forgot all about it because they had a lot going on. And I walked past and I saw your booth, and I walked past. And then I turned around and talked to you, and it ended up being perfect because I feel like the story that you told about your own child was so similar to what I was experiencing. And I was like, none of the professionals are telling me that there's anything wrong with his eyes, and he doesn't have mental disabilities. The disorders that the people were suggesting were not fitting. They weren't adding up. And so when you explained what Vision Reading Academy does, it seemed to be a next thing to try. And I'm so glad that we did. Ended up having two kids that need it. Probably me too, honestly. So that's how I found you, and I'm so grateful. So
I love it. I love it. That's fantastic. Yes, I do. I remember that conversation with you. We were at StoryCon. We don't do a lot of marketing, and so there's not a lot of things that I go to. This was probably, I think, one of the second ever marketing events that I had ever been to. And so I was just kind of like, okay, I'm here. What's happening? This is great. And I remember you walking up to me, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to tell my story. That's how this program started, is through my own desperation for my own daughter. Just being able to be open with you and be authentic and just be like, this is what it is. This is what I was able to figure out. And if this is something that we can help you with your son, then let's do it. Let's talk about, as you have gone throughout the program with both of your sons, what has your experience been? Like, how have they taken to it? Let's just kind of dive deep into that's been.
That is a whole roller coaster. I'm sure that this is very common. We started in the beginning, and I feel like it's tough for us to get sometimes routines solidified. So I feel like it was slow going in the beginning as far as doing the eye exercises. We had a struggle for the first few months, I'll be honest with you, and it was tough. And even at one point, I was thinking, I don't know if it was wise for me to do 2 kids at once. I had this thought, I think maybe we should have done 1 kid and focused on that and then done another kid. And then now at this point, I've thought it's actually good that we did both together. I have 2 boys there. Their attitudes about reading are not great. However, their attitudes weren't great, not necessarily because of how I homeschooled, because I always was gentle and was always encouraging, and they didn't have any real bad associations with trying to learn to read. They just seemed like they didn't like it and they didn't enjoy it. And so I signed them up for this program and I said, we're going to do this and you're going to be able to read better. And they were like, but I don't want to read better. They're young enough that they're like, I don't really want to. I don't like to do that. I don't want to. And so it took a lot of explaining. And I said, when you play a board game and when you do whatever, sometimes I read the cards for you because you can't, but I'm not going to always be able to do that for you. And I eventually, when you're getting big and you need to take a driving test or something, I can't come in and read the questions for you. So you're going to need to be able to do this. And so that logic does help sometimes, but they really got to a point pretty quick. We started doing the exercise. It was a real struggle because it did not take very many days before they were like, I don't really want to do this anymore. And they became very resentful and they said things like, I did not sign up for this. I didn't choose to sign up for this. You just signed me up for this. And now I have to do all this stuff. And I don't want to. And I am fine with how my eyes see things. And they're like, I don't have any issues with how my eyes work. My eyes work just fine. As far as they are concerned, they were like, I'm fine. And so one thing that really helped was their assessments with you. And so Coach Leah is so good. Whenever she saw them getting kind of really, really frustrated, she was so good. She really came up and just showed up for them and really encouraged them. And the coaching lessons with Leah were fantastic. She really was so skillful in handling them and their emotions. And then even another boost was their sessions with you, and your encouragement was so good for them. And they reached a point where they started to see the difference, where they started to be able to tell. And it really helped when Coach Lee could show them a previous recording of them and how they read something a month ago. And that really, really helped. And even then, there still was a point where my son said, Mom, I don't want to do this. It's been too long. I don't want to do this anymore. And you can't stop me from quitting. And I said, here's where the tough love comes in. I said, well, I will let you quit if you want to, but here are the conditions. I said, you can quit, but just know that this is going to have to be done again. And the coaches tell us that if you quit now, your eyes are going to go back to it the way they were in their most weak state, so you'll have to start over. If that is your choice, it is fine, but I just want you to know that I will pay for this one time. So if you want to quit now, that is fine. I'm only going to pay for it once with a successful outcome. So if you want to quit, that's fine, but you have to reimburse me. And they said, well, how much is it? And I added it up, and it was not at all something that they were willing to do. And he was like, well, I'm not going to pay all that money for my eyes to just go back to the way they were. And I was like, you and me both, pal. So here we are. And now we are in a place where I have one that's a little bit less motivated and one that's more motivated. And he's starting to tell me, hey, what if I do 6 exercises a day? What if I do 7 exercises a day? But here we are, and it's been 9 months. So it's finally Like they're finally recognizing that they're not getting out of it. We're sticking through this. And I can't do their eye exercises for them.
Absolutely. And hey guys, before we continue, I want to let you know that for a limited time, Vision Reading Academy is offering free assessments for children who are struggling with reading or learning challenges. If you've been wondering why school feels harder than it should for your child, this is a great opportunity to get clarity and a plan. Visit visionreadingacademy.com to book your free assessment before our spots fill up. Now back to the episode. That's great. Your journey is similar to a lot of kids. It really is. And that's what you said at the very beginning, where you were like, I feel like that this is probably common. It is. And the part that I love about what is happening with your journey is you've seen the success and your boys have seen this success. And so they're like, okay, this isn't so bad. All right, let's stick around for this. Let's see this all the way through. I remember we just barely talked. We just barely had an assessment on Wednesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
With them. And they were like, well, how much longer?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to explain to them that I was like, okay, your time as far as when the clock started for you, essentially, was when you buckled down and you really started doing the eye exercises. And so we kind of can't really count all of that time that you were working with Coach Leah before, and then you were fighting mom on doing eye exercises and everything else like that, because there wasn't the growth there. There wasn't the releasing of that tension that was happening. So you were basically going through the motions of working with Coach Leah, but physically, anatomically, there wasn't the changes that were happening yet. And they both were kind of like, okay. So we have kids that they will be like, well, I've been doing this. I've been in the program. The parents have been like, my child has been in the program for 6 months. I'm not seeing what you guys said that I should be seeing. And it's because there isn't the exercises that are being accomplished. And that's really a key factor in what we do here. Yes, we have the sessions where we're doing a lot of the different exercises also within the sessions, but those are different exercises that are on top of what the exercises are supposed to be outside of the sessions, with the regular everyday life, doing the 5 exercises a day, like you were saying. And then your son's like, well, maybe if I do 6, well, maybe if I do 7. That's the bread and butter of it. That's where it has to happen. And that's why I've talked about this before on podcasts, where we're the coach. It's the mom and child team that makes the difference. And I love that you came to talk to us today, because you are a fantastic example of you supporting your children, right? And you being there for your boys and going, no, you know what, let's do this. And you supporting them through this journey, which is allowing them to have enough of that confidence to say, okay, yeah, let's keep doing this. But even if that included a little bit of some tough love, right?
A little bit tough love, yeah.
But it works out. Well, that's fantastic. So with all of this, let's talk about, now that they're seeing progress, now that they're seeing things, let's talk about that experience of where their journey is now taking them with school and with reading and everything else. Like, what changes are you seeing with them?
The changes that I'm seeing are that my younger son in particular, he is not intimidated by a full page of text. Sometimes when we used to get out a book, a chapter book, and they still in like young reader books, and they have big words and picture on one side and words on the other. Sometimes he would just like sit back in his chair, like when he'd see a full page of words. He doesn't do that anymore. You know, if I asked him to read a list of words in the past, it might have seemed overwhelming, but there's this emotional weight that has been removed. And that is huge. Do they read for pleasure? No. Sometimes if they ask me to read stuff, I kind of get out of the habit of reading stuff for them. They say, Mom, what does this say? And I would just do it because that's what I did when they were babies. But I had trained myself finally to say, well, give it a try. And they do now without asking. We've got a long way to go still in the program, but they're not intimidated by text. There are some old scripture texts that we read regularly, and some of those words are crazy, and they read them. Word guessing does not help in those old scripture texts very much. I don't think that they even recognize how far they've come. So I think that's why those videos are so helpful from Coach Leah, for her to show them what they used to read back in the beginning, because our progress is so incremental. And I think another thing, I was going to say this earlier, I think another thing that was really challenging for my boys to do this program is, here I am saying, I'm going to help and make sure that there are no physical barriers for you to be able to read. And I think that the one of them was worried that I was trying to force him to love reading, and that I was going to force him to be obsessed with reading giant novels. And I said, I just had to clear that up with him and say, if you never read another book again, if you never read for pleasure in the rest of your life, that doesn't matter. But you have to be able to read when you need to. And in this world, we're going to have to be able to read. Reading is the way that we're going to be able to gather information. You can gather any information you need to with reading, and you're going to have to be able to take a block of text that's informational, even if it's not a narrative story, and understand that with your brain. That is what this is. And he's like, but isn't this kind of expensive? And I was like, well, it's worth $1 million to me that you don't have a physical barrier stopping you from reading. I was like, I can't stop you from reading if that's what you want, but I will do everything I can to remove this physical barrier for you. And I think that spoke to him a lot. And they really are doing so much better. And they try stuff. They stop and sound out words. I think that my older son, when he would word guess, I think for him it was like he wanted to do things correctly. He was worried about doing it wrong, so he would word guess, and he didn't understand that was, I think it was like an anxiety thing at that point. But he slows down now. He just does it at his pace the way he can, and he's improved so much. And the challenges I feel like that he has are more social about it, about reading in front of others.
Hopefully he'll get there. We have many students where they're terrified. Even Coach's daughter, or her daughter was that way. And then she eventually got up and was able to read in front of her entire homeschool co-op. And it was incredible.
That's amazing.
So that may be something, I'm not going to say that this is a thing that you can look forward to, that he'll be doing this now. I can't say that, right? Because he's on his own journey. He's going to do what he wants to do. And that's totally fine. But I love how you were telling him that it's not about the love of reading, right? You don't have to love reading, but you have to survive and thrive in life. From everything from reading a recipe to cook you dinner, to reading the ingredients at the store on which product you're buying, or whatever else.
Or contracts, or...
Exactly. Yeah, anything. You have to be able to know how to read and understand the context of what you're reading. And even there's a lot of reader programs and apps out there and devices out there that are there for you, but at the same time, they are still a machine. And they cannot read to you fully like your brain can understand the context of what it is.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
That's what makes a huge difference in you yourself reading and being able to have somebody else do it for you all of the time. That's fantastic. I love that. I love that for both of your sons. And hey, just a quick heads up. Everything we share here at the Vision Reading Academy podcast is based on real life experience and solid research, but we're not a medical program. We don't do vision therapy or optometry, and nothing we say should be taken as medical advice. If you've got concerns about vision or health, definitely check with a licensed professional. Where they are going, here's one son doesn't want to ever read a book ever again, that's fine. That's totally fine. It's not a big deal. Like I have, and my child that I did started this program with, she devours books. She loves them. And she's constantly saying, Mom, I need this new book. And she's constantly going to the library. And then I have a son that he taught himself how to read. And he can read. He's great at reading. He doesn't enjoy reading books. He would much rather sit there listening to music or playing on his drums or stuff like that. And that's just him. And that is totally fine. This program isn't one where we're going to try and brainwash all of the children to be like, you're going to love reading. Reading is going to be your favorite thing. You're going to read all of these books. You're going to read 200 books in a year. That's not what it's about. It's about changing their futures in order for them to be able to thrive in life.
Yeah. And I, as a child, did not like reading at all. And I love reading now, but I was 20 before I ever read for pleasure. So I feel like your whole life is ahead of you. And if you don't want to read right now, and maybe if you never want to read again, it's fine. But I'm just not too worried. He might find pleasure in books eventually, but I want him to have the ability.
Exactly. How has it been for his schoolwork? Like, do you feel like there's less frustration with schoolwork overall with both of the boys?
Yeah.
Like, they're able to actually get through their schoolwork faster?
Yes. Yep. They're able to get through their schoolwork faster. I have not pushed writing very much. Oh my goodness, their handwriting is trash. But one step at a time. I'm asking a lot of them right now. We've got a long way to go, but both of them, we do get through. And the emotional stress is so much less. And and the older one can read some instructions to himself now, and I'll encourage him to do that. And it's a different world. It would be nice if they appreciated it more, but I think that they will someday.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, it will make a huge difference in their entire lives. It really will. Last couple of things before we wrap up. Do you have any advice for other parents out there that are listening that they've come across this information and they're hesitant, or they're just brand new to this and they're going, what is this? What could you say to them about what this program is about, how it's helped you, next steps that you took and you were glad?
I'm really glad that I got the assessment, for sure. And I'm really glad that we were able to start when we did. Maybe advice, I would say, if you had something huge coming up, maybe start after. If you're like, oh, we're going to be gone for a month, I don't know. Just timing, because once you start, it would be more valuable to be consistent. So if you're thinking, I can't really be consistent about this for another month or so, I would wait to start until you are ready to be consistent. And consistency can be really hard.
What helped get you into that consistent routine? What are some things that you did that you've done with your boys to get incentives, stuff like that?
Oh yeah, we've got all the incentives. I have like charts, and we tried like giving them money at the end of the week if they didn't miss a day. I actually have one here that I do. I can show you. So we have these jars, and in the bottom is candy. These are pom-poms. There are 5 of them, and they can't get to the candy until they pull out all 5 pom-poms. And so I have these like tongs that they'll reach in and grab out the pom-poms. So they do an exercise, they pull a pom-pom out, and then they can get the candy. Now, there are 4 candies down there because I have 4 children, and everyone gets the candy when the child in question has done all 5 exercises. So everybody celebrates. And it's really nice because then the other kids are like, hey, they can see there's only 1 pom-pom left in the jar. Like, hey, you should do that last one. And they're like, oh yeah, so they do. And so everyone is encouraging and helping. And so that is one that is still working. We actually listened to Atomic Habits as a family audiobook. And we discussed after applicable chapters, like, how would that help us with some of the goals that we have? Oh, eye exercises. Okay. Like, yeah. So I haven't made them listen to or do any like self-help type nonfiction books before. But we just listened to that one in the car and just discussed it. We didn't write down anything, but this was inspired by a story from that book. That actually really helped a lot to read that book together as a family or to listen to it as a family. I don't know how to get into the routine faster. I don't know how to give advice about this necessarily, but if I could go back and talk to myself in the beginning and just say to myself about my kids specifically, because every kid is different and you know your kid, they're not going to be excited about doing this. This is work that we've asked them to do that they're going to be doing for months before they see results. And that is hard for adults to do. That's hard for even the most well-adjusted, responsible adult to work hard at something and not see results for months. How challenging that can be. And I guess if I could say to myself in the beginning, I would say just that they're going to struggle with the consistency of this and to be patient and to know that for me, the first couple of months were probably not that productive. And just to be aware that there was going to be a time space before anything really productive happened where it was basically conditioning for the kids to realize that they weren't getting out of this until it's done. It's like being pregnant. Like you have to have a baby to be done. So it's like in month 2, like you have this long way to go and it's not over till it's over. I feel like if I could go back and say to them and do something that was going to help to maybe accelerate that mentality that this isn't over till it's over. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how long, but I do know the instructions we've been given. I know how to get there. I don't know how fast, but we do know what to do and what not to do. And just the more powerful we can be, the better this is going to go. And our attitudes is everything as far as to stick with something that's not fun for a long time is a pretty big character building thing. And it's a really big ask for a kid. And I would also say, this was not my experience specifically, but I would also say that maybe if you are having relationship problems with your kid, if you are in the middle of a power struggle and you're having relationship struggles in general, I would maybe wait and do some repair on your relationship before. Luckily, we were in a good place, but I've learned as a homeschool mom that you can't teach someone something if they're mad at you. So if there's any strife in your relationship with your kid, I would just focus on repairing that and then get started. But luckily, that wasn't necessarily our struggle, but maybe making sure that expectations are explained and explored with your kid. Maybe asking them, what are your expectations for this? Because my older son got pretty mad later on in the program because he said, well, I thought it was just going to be something that I could do as I was riding my bike or doing whatever. And I don't know where he got that expectation, but that persisted for a few weeks where he said, well, I thought it was going to be different. And we had to say, I don't know where that came from. You had an expectation. That expectation has not been met. That's not a reality. And so we're going to have to let go of that one and let go of the bitterness that you're feeling because of that expectation. So maybe having like real, actual discussion about what they might think it might look like. And if it looks different, that can be very upsetting for them.
Speaking to them like you would an adult, right?
Yeah.
Because even though their brains aren't they haven't grown to that capacity of the adult thinking, right? You can still communicate to them on that same level of going, I understand your frustration. I understand where you're coming from. I see that would be frustrating. And you now have to, rather than while you're riding your bike, you can't do these exercises. You actually have to stop doing something fun to come in and do these exercises and do these massages. And then you have to go back to it. Yeah, that would be kind of a bummer. But at the same time, if you think about what that little minute amount of time 5, maybe 10 minutes that you're taking out of playing and what it's doing for your future is huge.
Yeah.
They'll sometimes catch on, and that's why I did implement the benchmark recordings, was because I knew
It's
that
so
I needed
helpful. It's seriously the
them to
best.
see it.
I guess I would just say, like, if you went for a job interview and your boss didn't explain the job very well and you get into it and you're like, holy crap, this is not what I signed up for. Just kind of like that disorienting, like feeling, maybe even like a little bit of betrayal at that point. So those emotions can be very real, even though the kids aren't really seeing the benefit or the big picture of it all.
And they don't quite know how to understand how to articulate that.
Yeah.
They just kind of get angry. Yeah. Yeah. So being able to be open with your child and just communicate with them and talk to them about it. And the biggest thing is being that support member there for them, which is huge. I love that. And how much you supported your boys through this. It's a game changer.
I have a feeling in 20 years, they'll figure out, they'll be like, hey, that really was a big deal that mom did for us. So maybe someday they'll recognize that. It's parenting for you, right?
Yeah, I know. And you're like, it's like pregnancy. And then I was like, no, it's like parenting. That's a long journey. That's what you're looking at here. That's parenting. Do you have the baby? Oh, they're so cute and squishy, and they grow up and they're cute when they're 2, and they make cute little things that they say. And then they continue growing up, and then you get the teenage years, and you're just like, yeah, I gotta get through this. So, yeah,
That's great.
This is a parenting path.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like it forces you to be a better parent. I feel like homeschooling forces you to be a better parent. I don't know if this is going to be a popular opinion. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I feel like if you're going to teach your child and you're going to be in a business like this with your child, if you are going to do this, doing this doesn't necessarily mean homeschooling, but if you're going to do this with your kid, you have to have a relationship that is functional. And I have felt like that with homeschooling many times. I can't teach my kid if they're rebellious or if I am being too harsh. We have to fix our relationship before we're going to get any learning done. I feel like this type of thing, if you're going to engage in a journey like this with your kid, it forces you to fix your relationship problems along the way.
I love that. That's huge. That's something that I haven't heard.
Oh,
yet.
Well,
So
I feel like it's a very real reality. We can't make these things happen if we are not functional as a team, I guess is what you called us a team earlier. And I feel like that's very appropriate. And there is a lot of tension here and there sometimes over doing the eye exercises and practicing the drills and showing up for sessions with coach. You have to be working together, and you can't work together if you're fighting.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. That's fantastic. That's some amazing advice. I love that you came on. I love that that we were able to talk, and we were able to talk about the journey with your sons and where you're at and where you've come. And you're still on this journey, which is great. I love being able to hear from parents that have their journeys over with, and then parents that are still in it, because then that gives all the other parents out there as well, like, that motivation of, yes, okay, this is still okay. This can happen. I can see the end result. I can see the middle result. So this is great. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure that we'll probably have you on again another time. And other than that, we can definitely look forward to Coach Leo will talk about wins that we have with your boys here on another podcast episode. So
excellent.
Jessie, again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much
today. And we will probably see you soon. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Raising Confident Readers, the Vision Reading Academy podcast. If today's episode got your gears turning, we'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'm Crystal, founder of Vision Reading Academy, reminding you that learning isn't one size fits all, and every child deserves a custom game plan. Until next time, keep it curious, keep it science-based, and as always, keep helping those kiddos thrive.